Welcome to the Pivot Point podcast. This season, I'm focused on having real conversations about diversity and inclusion. In this episode, I'll share some thoughts and ideas with myself because it's a bonus episode. And together, we will leave you with some actionable tips to think about and discuss with your organization. We share this information because inclusive leadership is a journey. It requires bravery and courage, and you do not have to do it alone. At Next Pivot Point, I believe we're stronger together. We're one. So this week's topic, the bonus episodes between seasons 5 and 6, I wanted to highlight some gaps, some areas we haven't covered at all of our nearly 100 episodes we're coming up on to celebrate. And the conversation today that I promised to give you in 10 minutes or less is, as an ally, how do I facilitate this so much needed candid conversation? It's probably the number one question I get asked is, what do I do? What do I say to demonstrate I'm an ally? I know it's in the eye of the beholder. I want people to see me as an ally, but I don't want to say I'm an ally because I know that's not how it works. So what do I do instead, Julie? Well, I have some thoughts. And in the free time that this pandemic world has offered me in the springtime, I put pen to paper and I thought of the 5 questions to get the conversation started in your organization. And I built a new page on my website. All those resources are 100% free, complimentary for you and your organization. They feature videos and blog content to continue to have this conversation and facilitate it yourself in your organization. And there's really 5 areas that organizations that have advanced diversity and inclusion do really well. And the first question that I would offer as an ally is to ask your organization, why do we care about diversity and inclusion? Now, this is somewhat of a leading question because you're assuming that they do care. I think in the turbulent times we're experiencing in 2020, to say you don't care about diversity and inclusion, I would think is not a popular thing to say. So even if it's for political correctness, that's okay. Start there. I work with a lot of organizations that admit they are on the ground floor of diversity and inclusion. So if you're there, ask, why do you care? And what I would offer is get some senior leaders together, ideally, get a group of managers together, talk to your peers, whoever you have influence and can rally together in a group, and ask the question, why do we care about diversity and inclusion? Listen to learn, facilitate the conversation, asking things like, say more, let's dig into that further, how would you describe that to somebody else? What is the real purpose of our focus on D&I? And dig deep. A lot of times people say superficial things like it's just what's right to do as all humans, or I don't see color, or we're really good at this because we do these things, and they mean, some sort of check the box activity. Challenge that. That's complacency. And this is the conversation to dig deeper and to say, no, but why? What if we don't do anything? Like, what will this look like? Why? Why is this so important that it needs to be one of our core values, or at a minimum embedded in the behaviors that support our core values? It's missional. It's a cultural transformation. It is not a one and done initiative. So why? Start there. That's question 1. 2, I want you to paint a picture. This is a visualization exercise. What would our organization look like if we were more diverse and inclusive? Now reflect on that. Again, in a group of your peers, management, senior leaders, ask, tell me what people are doing. What are they saying? How are we behaving? How are our customers responding to this? Our communities, the people we want to do business with, the people we want to be supported. What does that look like? Paint that picture of what does success look like. This helps manifest the future and for people to see this is possible. The change is possible. And if we do these hard things, because it is hard, it's a journey, not a destination, that there's a payoff in sight because I can see what good looks like at the end. So step 2, visualization. Step 3, tackle the fear. And this is FOMO at its finest, fear of missing out. People need pain to change behavior. So no one just changes and gets highly involved in diversity and inclusion just because it dawned on them one day. It's a nice thing to do. It's not how humans work. We do it because there's pain. We're going to miss out on something. There's a risk involved if we don't change. So ask, what if nothing changes? What will it look like here? What if we continue to stay status quo? Tell me what happens. What if we do nothing? What does that look like? In that, you capture, much opposite of the last question, a bad case scenario that no one wants. We lose customers. We don't reflect our customer base. We don't have the products and services that people want to do business with us. Ooh, yikes. Better do something different then. And that's where you want people to land and self-discover that if we do nothing, that may feel like a choice, a safe one, in fact. If doing nothing is better than having this risky conversation. But if we do nothing, we risk losing everything. Step 3. Now to step 4, barriers. So there is a reason why we're not doing these things. There's a reason why we're not as diverse and inclusive as we'd like to be. No one's perfect. Everyone always asks me for the poster child of diversity and inclusion. There's some great organizations getting it right, but no one has this figured out. No one's where they want to be. And that's part of the fun of the work. It never ends, but part of the challenge of the work is it never ends. So what are the barriers? What are the barriers? What is preventing us from being as diverse and inclusive as we'd like to be? This is where I really like to do, tell me more. Why? Ask, just like a 2-year-old would. Pretend you don't understand. In fact, act like you actually tell yourself, I don't understand, because there are barriers that you're probably not even aware of that are invisible, especially for leaders. They often don't see. It could be a person that's acting poorly. It could be a meeting cascade that has gone awry. It could be subtle behaviors and socialization that have now been set as the cultural norm and deemed to be okay, that are setting the tone for exclusion. You don't know what you don't know. Be curious to learn what the barriers are. Assume that there are things getting in our way. And ask your team deeply to reflect on that. Question 5, priorities. Assuming that we want to advance diversity and inclusion and that this is a priority and we have agreed that it is important, ask people to define the top 3 things we need to do to demonstrate success with diversity and inclusion, to fulfill that visualization that we did, to demonstrate why it's important, to overcome the FOMO, and to fight these barriers, tackle them head on. What are the 1, 2, or 3 things? No more than 3, because if you have more than 3, you will get none of them done. What are the 3 priorities that are non-negotiable that we will do? And set firm commitments to those 1, 2, or 3 priorities. Have a roadmap. Have people accountable for it. Have it as a part of their job. Provide resources, funding, time, just like you would anything that's important in your business. And then you have things set in motion, just like a flywheel. It's going to continue to spur positive action. So those 5 questions are all on my website, nextpivotpoint.com/5-questions. We'll link to that in the show notes. Be sure to check that out. That is all I have for you in this bonus episode. I appreciate you being an ally. Cheers to having that candid conversation about diversity and inclusion. Did you know that you can find all 5 seasons of our 50+ episodes at nextpivotpoint.com? There, you can get access to our Lead Like an Ally brand new online program and book, Lead Like an Ally. I appreciate you listening to this episode. Who do you know that needs to hear this message? Hit the share button and connect with me on LinkedIn. Simply search Julie Kratz, Kratz. I host this podcast because I believe we are stronger together. We are one.